Tonight's telecast has been brought to you by Dickies. They're America's favorite work clothes. That game will then have to bowl Dave Husted, the winner of the U.S. Open this past year. Rick Sajak will bowl out of the number 2 slot. And then number 1 tonight, Ron Palumbi Jr. out of Erie, Pennsylvania. Who did fairly effectively ended up on the telecast here this evening.
Well, Ron Palumbi was the one who carried it the best. He averaged 230. And it's been relatively easy to hit the pocket all week long. Cross lane at the 10 pin. And measured it just right.
A bit of a nervous shot there for Norm Duke, but he'll breathe a sigh of relief. Norm says he's been studying sports psychology over the break and is much more mentally prepared to play on the tour.
Well, we'll see if it pays dividends tonight.
Ambleto Monticelli from Venezuela would just love to become the first foreign player to notch a PBA championship.
He's going to do it. It's just a question of when, Denny. That's the way to start.
And the tank, the first shot for Ambleto is absolutely perfect, dead center. And that's the way to open up a match as you take a look at the average on the TV pair this week. And it has been a very solid week for the player from Venezuela.
And Ambleto came from 7th place in the position round last night to leapfrog around both George Pappas and Marshall Holman,
who were dueling for the number 5 and 6 spots last night. Boy, what a position round game last evening.
Take a quick 10-pin lead with a double. Almost had the pocket 7-10 and just a 10-pin standing.
You mentioned the pocket 7-10, Mike. That was a shot that we saw all week long. When you're in the pocket, you blow out the 5. What happens to the 2 corner pins?
Well, many times what happens is that 5-pin goes behind the 7-pin and the head pin goes in front of the 7-pin. We saw a replay of it a couple weeks ago in the seniors tournament, and we saw where both the 5 and the 7 went in front of the 7-pin. So neither one of them hits it. And in the past, Ambleto's missed several single-pin spares on television, and I saw him practicing them before, during the half-hour practice that the bowlers had before time. And we get a look at Ambleto's almost pocket 7-10. Watch the 1 and the 5 and see what they do. And the 5 just barely got that 7 out.
Could have been disastrous. Norm Duke looking for his first strike of the match.
Light. And the 4-8. Ball just never made the turn.
Contrasting styles. Norm Duke fairly straight. Ambleto, he's going to curve it from one end of the alley to the other.
And Norm Duke can curve it when he wants to, too. I'm telling you, this young man can hook the ball when he wants to. Ball coming up light in the pocket. The 1 pin just barely nicks the 2, and it falls into the 5. In order to get a strike, Denny, the 1 pin has to hit the 2. And those light hits, and he's in trouble, and misses the spare badly. He knew it as soon as he let it go. It was like a golfer following up a putt that he knew he'd missed. He just started almost walking away from that as soon as he let it go.
So Duke, with the first mistake of match number 1, now trails by 13 heading into the 3rd frame. And he's obviously still trying to get lined up and get that first strike.
Well, he was lined up. It's just a question, a little bit of nerves right here to start the match up. He needs to settle himself down. Sometimes when you have an open frame like that, that's the worst that you can envision happening. It happens, and you relax a little bit more, and you can do better.
Norm Duke averaging better than 223 for his 42 games this past week.
7 steps this week. Light, and gets the wall shot.
Which really is turning out to be the premier hit on the PBA Tour, the wall shot.
Well, that ball comes in light in the 1-3 pocket, but I still consider it in the pocket, and the head pin goes to the wall, comes back off the wall, gets that 4-5-7. It's made easier on today's pins that have 2 voids in them, and they're laminated pins. They fly faster. They go to that wall faster than they did, say, when I was a youngster growing up.
Monticelli, plus 13 in the 3rd.
Sends it out. Boy, he's drilling that lane, isn't he?
Boy, that arm swing is unbelievable. I mean, I would probably have to make a trip to my local chiropractor if I ever tried a shot like that. Mike Durbin, I know you used to hook it a little bit, but that's kind of ridiculous.
I've crossed with Ambleto, and
you
not a
used
style
to line up with.
You're right. Yeah. It's not a style that I would recommend to the young players coming up. But Ambleto works as hard as anyone on the tour. But you watch it; it's 6 steps, a little shuffle there. Now watch how he opens that shoulder up, that ball behind the hand cocked all the way behind the ball. never really gets to the side of the ball, but lifts it like crazy. For the double. Has it.
And at this point in time, Amleto Monticelli certainly in the driver's seat in match number 1 as he leads by 23. Back with more. Well, Texas was pleasant no matter where you were at.
Well, I'm finding out as I'm down in Fort Worth. But anyway, I started with the first 9 into Quaker State last year in Grand Prairie, Texas, before I left a 4-pin.
Whew. That had to be exciting.
It was.
Norm Duke trying to bowl his way back into the match, and a solid 10, a ringing 10 on lane 34. So an excellent adjustment, a great shot after the commercial break, but still no X.
That's the only thing that held the scores down this week. It was easy to get to the 1-3 pocket, but that 10-pin just wouldn't cooperate with a lot of the players.
Thus far on the season, for the entire year, 22-year-old Norm Duke averaging just a fraction better than 209 per game.
And I think that we have these 2 young players here, Duke 22 and Amleto 24. He bounces that 10-pin out. 2 of them together, just 1 year older than I am. And I really think it's just indicative of a kind of a changing of the guard that's going out on the tour right now, that the younger players are just so good coming out, and some of us older players are in the twilight of our careers.
Oh, come on, Durbin, you're not that old. I've seen you go out there and strike, but you're right. The average age of our participants this evening is 24 years. Now, that's not very old, as Norm Duke decides on a re-rack on lane 33. Obviously did not like the pocket.
Well, he's allowed 3 a game, and sometimes he just thinks that the pins are not set right for him. He's left 2 of those 10 pins already, and he's trying to get a rack, and he's not going to leave the 10 pin on.
Trying to get a strike as well to get untracked here in the opening match.
Right through the heart, 3, 6, 9, 10. He's falling further and further behind.
What does that do for you if you're Amleto, when you see a guy that's struggling a little bit?
As we see this ball cutting right through the heart of the pins, he's fortunate that he didn't come out with a split, but he has a very, very difficult spare. What it does with Amleto, who's wired into the pocket, is you just want to keep your intensity up. You don't want to relax. It's like getting ahead in any sport. You want to keep making birdies or keep making baskets. In this case, keep making strikes and get further ahead.
Duke with a very difficult spare conversion and
doesn't do it.
Going to quite get the job done. So the second open in just 5 frames for Norm Duke, and the youngster from Texas is struggling.
You see him shooting this from the left, and the ball just doesn't have enough drive to carry through to get that 9-pin in the back, and he chops the 6 off the 9, misses the spare, and he's down by 38 pins. Monticelli can just bury him with a couple strikes here.
Amleto Monticelli earning better than $81,000 last year and really thrust himself onto the scene.
Here he comes.
Woo! Another strike for Amleto, and he's finished second 4 times in his career. And I asked him earlier tonight if that's bothering him. Does he apply more pressure now to win?
No, I don't think so, because every time I bowl the show, I feel like I bowl really well. It's just a matter to get the right break at the right time, and then you win, I guess.
He's got a nice smile, doesn't he?
He's got a nice game, too. You'd be smiling if you could strike like that and be leading by 48.
One more. One more. A little fire in his eye there. Did you see that?
He is not cutting any slack at this point, and well in command of the match. Of course, the winner will face off with Dave Husted out of Milwaukee, Oregon. Norm Duke, now what's he say to himself, Mike Durbin? He's obviously having all sorts of problems with this fair. What do you have to do to get back into the match?
He's in a situation where, I mean, you start figuring if I can do it with a pencil, I can do it with a bowling ball. He's potential 222 if he strikes out at this point. He's in the must-strike situation in the 6th frame of the match. And this is just one of these runaway matches that Norm just nothing's going right for him as he goes right to the heart, the 4-6-7, 4-6-10.
You have to feel for somebody that has bowled as well as he has all week long, and you get onto the TV show, and all of a sudden the wheels come off, and you just can't seem to hit the pocket.
Just nothing's gone right for him in this game at all. 2 solid 10s when he did get the ball in the pocket, and as soon as he misses it, he's missed 2 spares, which he has no one to blame but himself for that.
It looked like he had left the double pinochle, but the 7 did fall down a little late, and Duke has opted, I think, to throw a practice strike shot. He did bowl outstanding all week long, and I asked him why he bowled so consistently here at Earl's Bowling Center.
Well, in the past, I've had problems putting the mental game and the physical game together. I'd either be on physically or on mentally. This week, I put them both together. I was sharp mentally, as sharp as I've ever been, and physically, I was sharp. I put it together and performed consistently throughout the week.
And obviously, that conversation took place before game number 1 here tonight, as he is re-racked again on lane 33.
And I think we might explain his spare shot there, Denny. You mentioned that he was practicing. What he did was he took another ball and he changed angles, knowing that to have any chance he must strike out in this match. And so he's just making a bold move to the right, or a desperation move, really. It's not so bold. He just has to do something to get back in here.
So Duke double re-racks in the 7th. He now has used up all 3. So as far as match number 1 is concerned, he is all out. Fresh out makes the adjustment and strikes on the left-hand lane. And he applauds himself for the adjustment. Norm Duke trying to scramble his way back into the match, but Amleto Monticelli leads by 71. 71, and Amleto looking to make it a 5-bagger in the 7th.
Amleto just looking to maintain his concentration and get ready for the next match, really. Duke is still potential 199, so it's still possible, but seems highly unlikely at this point. Gave that one more room. Almost had that 7-10 again.
And obviously some of the boisterous crowd here at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl not seeing that corner pin to the left, the 7 pin. They thought that Amleto had struck again.
He got another one right. Now, Amleto doesn't hook the ball at a lot of spares. He tries to throw it straighter, and he's missed several easy spares in the past. See what he does at the 7 pin. Didn't hit it too solid there.
Well, as long as you knock it down, that's all that counts. And, of course, a former outstanding bowler on the PBA Tour, a PBA Hall of Famer, a guy that really is responsible for having the tournament here, Ted Hoffman. Hoffy always smiling.
Yeah, puppy as they call him.
Puppy. He had a chance to win a couple of PBA titles in his day.
He lost in 1966, I think it was, to Bill Lillard at the Miller High Life Open in Milwaukee. Left a 4-9 in the 10th frame. Amleto leaves the 2-5. And Ted was in the situation that the way the score was that he had to go for 1, and that would make Lillard strike out, as we see Earl Anthony, the PBA Hall of Famer, and our host here, PBA's all-time leading title winner and money winner. Just Mr. Everything in the sport of bowling.
You know, he's bowled on television a couple of times, and I'll chat with him during the bowling news segment coming up in just a couple of moments. And spare coverage there by Monticelli, who is, at this point, I think just pacing himself here in the opening game.
Right. And to complete my story, when Hoffman was bowling Lillard, and Lillard needed to strike out in the 10th to beat Hoffman or double, and he did it, and that was the only chance, that was the biggest chance that Teddy had to win a title.
Norm Duke just trying to stop the bleeding, as they say, and get his first double.
Right through the heart again, leaves the 6-10. Right now he just wants to get it done and get it over and put the ball in the bag and go back to the paddock and right back to the hotel.
Mike, when you're in that situation, do you learn anything from a game like this on national television?
Right now, I don't see too much what he can be learning.
When you mention the paddock, of course, that's the PBA locker room where the players keep their equipment and their emotions for the most part.
Right. Not always. That's where they're supposed to keep their emotions, yeah.
You mean you've seen a few flying spheres in that paddock through the years?
Well, there's been flying things, yes.
Well, there are some great stories about hands going through walls and bowling balls at times
yes,
that have not found the lanes.
There was a story of a bowling ball going through a wall one time.
Well, maybe you can relate that.
In Portland. I don't want to implicate anybody here.
I wonder if they patched up the wall.
Well, the bowler that happened did write a letter to the proprietor and paid for it himself, so...
Well, and rightfully so. Norm Duke, with a smile on his face, winks at Mom and says, hey, I didn't get him this time, but maybe next time. And there is the lovely Miss Kessler, 1986. Sunny Betts. She's obviously enjoying the action.
Well, she maybe knows that Amleto was on Linda's list last week. And
oh, you're talking about the sexy six. Yep. Two of the players on that list are on the show here tonight. Ron Palumbi Jr. being the other.
Ooh. Hey, what do we have here? This is the, let's see if I can count this off. The 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10. Hitting the head pin and getting 4.
Mike, that's a half dozen.
Right through the heart of the pin. Where did the ball go? He gets 4 out of the middle.
This will be interesting if he makes this.
He's going to give it a shot. Eh?
He should get some kind of an award if he makes this.
And nope, 7 out. Right now he's been light, now high. He's just the ease at which he won this match. His adrenaline's down and he's lost a little concentration.
Amleto opens in the 9th, but still leads by 51. And he obviously he has got the match closed out.
He has the match closed out. Even he had it closed out in the 8th frame. The best that Norm Duke can get is 179. So Amleto trying to regain a little bit of that tension, just to get his act back together. He does it there.
As we mentioned, bowling out of Venezuela, and he would, if he would win here tonight, would become the first foreign player ever to win
Mats
PBA championship, and Mats has been very close indeed as well. Right. So we've got 2 outstanding foreign players that are bowling full-time on the American Tour, much the same as the PGA Tour has some players, foreign players that are competing.
And the 2 foreign players that we have coming from different parts of the world, Sweden and Venezuela. So. Another 10 pin, but back in the pocket. A little more authority on those shots. Amleto, if he converts the 10 pin, will wind up with 208 and win it easy.
Amleto thus far this year, with earnings in excess of $38,000, currently ranked 17th on the PBA's touring money list. And wraps up game number 1 with an easy victory, shooting 208.
It's ironic that scores we've had in the 220 averages all week long. We've got a 2-0 to maybe 150 game here on our first match on television tonight. For his double? Oh, that's what he's been doing. No, too little, too late, though.
Yes, but better late than never.
Well, he's salvaging a little pride if he can finish with 179 if he strikes out.
Well, he can walk over and tell the guys, hey, listen, I struck out in the 10th. It just wasn't quite enough.
Right.
Have to look at the positive, and that's what Dave Husted will be looking at in a couple of moments. He is next in line on the stepladder format.
Interesting that he's going to wind up, Norm Duke is going to wind up with 4 strikes in this match. Amleto only had 6, and yet there's a 40-pin difference. Is the fact that Duke had 1, 2, 3, 4 open frames.
Well, you realize the key in bowling, obviously, to string them together, which is what Amleto did. As Norm Duke bows out here in game number 1, the final score 208-168. PBA titleist brushes off the sliding shoe, and he'll open up on lane 33.
Of course, I should add that almost anyone plays better than I do.
I wanted you to say that, and not me. Husted's first shot, and you can hear that thumb hole rumbling, but the result is not bad.
Well, actually, Danny, I talked to him about that earlier, and it's not the thumb hole, it's the emblem on the ball. It's actually rolling over the emblem on the ball, so he says it's not hit.
All those good bowlers will say that, Mike.
Right. Anyway, the result was perfect.
Now, when you get 10 in the pit, it doesn't make any difference when it's rolling over. Amleto Monticelli with a 208-168 victory over Norm Duke in match number 1. And would love to start the same way with a strike.
And the right lane seems to be just breaking down on him a little bit. He went high in the 8th frame there and left that 4, when he got 4 out of 10 hitting the pocket, or hitting the head pin rather. This one cuts right through and leaves double pinnacle, the 4, 6, 7, 10. He's got to make an adjustment, and he's got to move his feet at least 1 or 2 boards to the left and move a little bit more inside. Ooh, and only gets 1 of them, 7 in the first frame. Falling behind right away.
Is it my imagination this week, Mike, or has it been a problem when the players have gone through the nose, hit the head pin, that they've left a number of splits? It seems like some weeks you kick out some of those pins.
Well, when that ball's breaking so sharply like Amleto's ball does, and it just cuts right through you, you really expect to get a split. Splits don't seem to bother these young guys that throw these big hooks because they throw so many strikes.
Amleto Monticelli needs a strike on lane 33. To set himself straight here, I think.
Lane 33 a little bit tighter than the right lane. And we see the results. You know, he's right back in there. He just needs to make that adjustment on 34.
Dave Husted, 6'2" tall, 165 pounds, 26 years of age. And Mike and I talked about the fact that Dave is probably the veteran on tonight's telecast. The fact that he started bowling professionally at age 18. I had a chance to watch his very first tournament, PBA National Championship, 1978, at the MGM Grand Hotel, and he made the finals.
I remember that. I remember watching him. Comes right out with that double.
In talking to Dave earlier this afternoon, we talked about the fact that he had an excellent winter tour, and that's been rubbing off on his play here in the summer.
I've bowled well all winter long. I did a lot of practicing over the break, and I bowled well last week at the Doubles Classic in Las Vegas. I came here to Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl. The scores were very high. I was lucky enough to throw a few strikes, and things went real well for me all week, and here I am.
And there it goes, the 4-pin, and that was a backdoor job.
Well, we saw with that swishing 4, we saw Marshall Holman leave a swishing 4-10 last night. Almost left 2 of them. As we see the 5-pin will go behind the 4. And comes back off, and that was, I don't even know whether that's the head pin. I think it was the head pin. Right now, you know, Amleto needs to make that adjustment on this right lane because Houston's just come out winging.
He is out of the gate in a hurry, and he's not looking back.
He moved in. And got the result. Now, that's experience. You know, he's been on the show a number of times. But it was interesting. I was talking to the different players before the championship round started tonight, and almost all of them said that the right lane hooked a little bit more. And Amleto said, I'm playing him the same. So we see that he had maybe read him a little bit wrong in practice, and that right lane is hooking a little bit more. He's bitten into that lead. It's down to 23. You can cut it to 13 with one more here now on lane 33.
Amleto, easily one of the best conditioned athletes on the PBA National Tour.
He has a tremendous physical regimen that he goes through every week. One more. Yep.
Well, Monticelli has certainly closed that lead with a turkey through 4 frames. He is now down 13 pins as match number 2 continues right after this. He's a beast, isn't he?
He's not as big as some of them. Andre the Giant, you know.
Dave Husted trying to stay perfect through 4 frames.
High 4-pin.
Well, so much for the opportunity, perhaps, to collect a check for $25,000 from True Value Hardware. If one of our pros shoots a 300 game between now and the end of the summer, that's what they get, the bonus check, 25 big ones.
And it hasn't been done since 1974 in Alameda, California, when Jim Stefanich did it. So it's been a while. We're due one then.
Oh, I'd just love to see that. That's as exciting as anything in sports. When somebody shoots 300, you get there, that 12th shot, the knees are knocking, everybody can't breathe, and you just wait and see what the reaction is.
In 1967, I was at the Firestone Tournament of Champions in the championship round that day, and the very first one was shot by Jack Biondelillo against Les Schisler, and then they told me, well, go out and bowl Biondelillo.
Yeah, nice try. Remember Coco Johnson's 299 in the Firestone, 268 Ricker shot?
I remember they both started with 6 in a row that time.
Well, that was exciting. Well, we've got excitement here this evening as well. Husted leads by 12, would like to make it 22, and
that ball's over.
The leaning tower of 4-pin.
Fell backwards. Watch the 2-pin, 3rd from the left. It goes to the wall, and it just, the head of it just nicked the butt of the 4-pin, and it fell backwards.
So you don't have to hit it hard.
Amleto, though, down only 12 pins, can cut into that lead, cut it down to 2 with one more strike here, trying for 4 in a row.
Amleto averaging 222.9 for 42 games here this week. Obviously outstanding. Throwing a lot of strikes.
Gives it room. And knocks the ball out of there. Boy, they fell funny. That ball rolled out as it hit the pocket. And what I mean by that ball rolling out is it actually quit. It's turning left now, and it goes straight right at the end there. It was hard to see. That 7-pin, I don't know, a bunch of pins ganged up on it.
Never had a chance.
He can take the lead for the first time in the match now with one more. He's got 4 in a row. He certainly made the adjustment on that right lane.
That was a group effort on that 7-pin.
It certainly was a group.
Ooh, got slapped out of there.
Here's the big one to take the lead. And the 4-pin, but he's still in the match, down only 3 if he converts the spare.
Really unleashed that one. You can hear the thumb hole pop, and when that happens, boy, that ball has got some revolutions on it.
He really ripped the fingers on that one. Amleto, a wrist player. Actually, when he comes through the ball at the bottom of his arm swing is slightly bent. So is it straight at the 4-pin? And makes it. No missed spares tonight.
With his approach to shooting spares, it's almost as if some of the younger players have copied Mark Roth, who really a lot of people say may be the finest spare shooter ever in the game, because Mark always arced the ball and hooked it. But boy, when he shot those spares, he threw it dead at it.
And he threw it 100 miles an hour. Mark Roth maybe was the finest spare shooter. Earl Anthony was an awful good spare shooter, too. And Dick Weber
never left any spares.
Oh, yes, he left a lot of spares. Something's happened.
Well, obviously, Dave Husted...
There's a camera or something down the lane that he could hear the camera whine. That's what he could. There's a partition that we put down there that we allow newspaper cameramen to get behind, and they can take pictures while the player's in action. And sometimes those cameras, you can hear them clicking or whine.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he heard.
As quiet as it gets. You hear a pin drop.
Up by 3 to try and make it 13. Through the heart, breaks up the split. Fortunate. Only the 3-6-10. He couldn't regroup his concentration there, Denny.
How tough is it to gather your concentration in a situation like that? I know I remember watching you that you were very, very intense when you bowled on television.
Well, it just, when you step off the approach like that, you've got to be able to shut out these other things out of your mind and just get back up. It is difficult. It is very difficult. He makes the spare with no trouble.
Dave Husted trailing by 3, and Michelle eyeing the scoreboard, his lovely wife, and obviously she would like to see things changed, and he leads by 3, I should say, at this point.
What he's got to do now is shut that frame out of his mind and start right over. It's a 4-frame match, and he's got 3 pins. They're both working on spares. Right in there.
Husted stretched out on that shot, got the full extension and the strike, and he leads by 13. We'll be back with more right after this message.
Take the 10 pins, Denny. Amleto might have something to say about that, though. 7th frame action. Here it comes light and doesn't make it up. The 2-8, tough spare. Let's see if he hooks it at this or throws it straight in. It'll be interesting to see how he attacks the spare, because it is not an easy spare. You got to have that deadwood or that sleeping back there. The ball has to cover both pins.
How did you used to shoot that?
I'd shoot it off my strike line. I would move 5 or 6 boards to the right and use my strike line, because I knew what the ball was going to do from my strike line. He's got it.
Right basically, I think what Amleto did there.
However, he lost 2 more pins, and he drops down behind by 5 right now, and he only has 3 frames left. The right lane seems to be the key.
Just in case you're wondering, Dave Husted beat Amleto Monticelli in match play 234 to 229 earlier this week, so their match was very close, and it's very close here this evening as Husted leads by 5.
And Husted has a strike up. Amleto needs something here in the 8th frame. Must get something going. There's a lot of room again. Is he going to hit it? Yes! That's the messenger.
Well, I wonder if there were a few words of Italian tossed out at that 10 pin.
And watch the head pin. Ball way out about the 7th board, and the head pin goes to the wall, comes back off the sideboard, and gets that 10 pin. And there's Amleto's reaction. Look at the eyes. He sees it. All right.
Grow old watching those. Husted on the right-hand lane.
Oh, the solid 8. I don't know if the pin went through it. I mean, it looked like the pin went through the 8 pin. I know it didn't, but that's how it appeared.
Outstanding shot. You couldn't flush it any better than that.
Oh. And he changed his balls to shoot the spare, something I presume that's going to go straighter. At the 8 pin. Has it, no problem.
So a very tough break indeed for Dave Husted in the 8th. Outstanding shot. And I know his dad, Champ, at home in Milwaukee, Oregon, probably tossing something at the television set after watching the solid 8.
He's saying a few words,
shoe
too,
or whatever.
Nice frame action, though. 5 pins difference. But now, if Ambletto would strike all the way out, he's going to win this match. Husted must strike here in the 9th frame. He's potential 239 if he goes all the way. Takes very little time. Oh, that could have been 3. Should have been 3. Just to show you the difference, he's up by 5. He would have been up by 25 if he'd carried the 8 pin.
Dave Husted, through 9 frames, has yet to miss the pocket.
And here's where they earn their money, the 9th and 10th frame action right now. Ambletto has his fate in his own hands right now, can take the lead for the first time in the match if he can strike on lane 34 right here, down by 5. But it's going to happen. And a solid 10. Boy, they just get you right back. He made the great shot. Husted left the 8 pin, Ambletto the 10 pin.
It would appear in some cases, Mike, that sometimes the best shots just don't strike.
And watch the 6 pin. Second from the right. Kept low, but went right around that 10.
If Ambletto would spare here and strike out a possible 224.
It would give him the lead. But his fate's not in his hands. He must make this 10 pin. And he does. No missed spares. He's not beating himself now. The 10 pin's not his fault. He can't do anything about that. He made the good shot, but now he's in the position where he must strike twice in the 10th frame. We see the scoreboard. The difference, 5 pins. Husted in the driver's seat has that strike in the 9th frame. Ambletto barely alive. What a difference.
Husted opened with a turkey. Ambletto Monticelli countered with a 4-bagger in frames 2 through 5, but as Mike just mentioned, it's going to be down to the 10th frame.
A little extra time. There's a lot of room. Boy, it came back, though. He'd be up by 15 if he carried the 10 pin. It just shows you how big those taps are, and they cost you so much money.
Both of those players with some outstanding shots.
Under
the heat of battle here, but the pins haven't always cooperated.
And they're just youngsters. They're just babies.
Ambletto Monticelli, 24 years of age, 5 years a PBA member. And you're right, Mike. Sooner or later, he's going to win.
And his 3rd opportunity in this match to take the lead. He has not been able to do it on any of them. Down by 5, can go up by 5 with this one. And does it this time. If he carries the 10 pin in the 9th frame, that wouldn't have won it for him. He would have locked him out. Right now, though, the count is not that big a thing.
But if Husted strikes in the 8th,
right,
he'd have gone off the sheet, and he wins.
That's right. You're right.
I mean, it's been to and fro. What a show these two have put on here in match number 2.
Ambletto, if he strikes here, is going to finish with 224 and 8 strikes, 8 out of 12.
Normally, 224 is good enough to win, but it may not be good enough this evening.
Well, that's up to Dave Husted. What a finish. 224.
So Ambletto Monticelli strikes out in the 10th to put the pressure squarely on the shoulders of 26-year-old Dave Husted.
Situation is Dave Husted needs the first strike in the 10th frame, 6 pins and a spare. Or is it 7 pins? Nope, 6. But he has to have this first one.
Has not missed the pocket yet in the match.
For the win. And has it! What a clutch shot. That 10 pin, the last to fall. That puts him in the 220s. He still needs some pins. If he gets 6 in a strike, he's going to, or 6 in a spare, he's going to be a winner.
I think Dave Husted saved the best for last. That probably was his finest shot of match number 2.
They all did. I mean, both he and Ambletto threw great shots in the 9th and 10th frame. In fact, from the 7th frame off.
So it's time to stay behind the foul line and get 7 or more. And obviously, that is enough. 9-pin stands, but it won't make much difference. Ambletto Monticelli with a handshake. Ambletto Monticelli will bow out. And Dave Husted will continue to climb the ladder. Of course, he qualified in the number 3 spot.
And he's won twice before there. He won the U.S. Open from the number 3 spot, and he won the Touring Players Championship from the number 3 spot. So he likes that position. And 2 wins away from a victory. As he practices on that spare. He practiced for the pocket.
Match number 2 won by Dave Husted. The final score, Husted 228, and Ambletto Monticelli 224.
It's interesting. 7 strikes Husted got.
Frame on the left-hand lane, lane number 33.
And he's hardly missed this lane. Still doesn't.
Light hit, little wall shot there as he checks out the slide at the foul line. And Ricky Sajak with a tremendous split conversion. Really had his back against the wall early and did what he had to do to get back into the match.
Well, the worst scenario that could happen, he came out and had a potential 2 opens the first 2 frames. Let's see if he can get his composure back together. Put the ball in the 1-3 pocket. Knocks a 10 out of there real nice.
Earlier this evening, had a chance to talk with Ricky, and he has been tabbed as a streak bowler, and I asked him if it meant he was going to win this evening.
Well, I don't know about that. I did a lot of practicing on the break and worked on my game real hard. And last week I had a good tournament, and it got me real loose for this week. And with the high scores, you have to be loose to throw them strikes, and I feel pretty good today.
He'd feel a lot better if he struck on the left-hand lane.
Doesn't. Right through the heart. Breaks up the 3. Ooh, how many keep falling? Breaks up the 3-6, 9-10 to only leave the 3-6. Much easier spares. We saw Norm Duke miss that 3-6, 9-10 earlier.
And that reminded me of the Durbin domino effect that you were so famous for inventing.
There we see the pin rolling over and hitting the 9-pin and falling to the 10. Converts the 3-6 easily.
11 plus for Dave Husted as he's leading, but not comfortably here in match number 3.
Sometimes it doesn't pay to do those extracurricular activities.
Well, when you hurt an elbow in this game, that is a problem. Husted with an 11-pin lead, shooting in the 4th, looking for a double.
Trying to make it 21. High 3-6, 7-10. Just got soft on that shot, didn't it? It looked like he just eased up on the speed, and the ball just hooked right through the heart. This is a makeable split. It's very similar to our tip that we just had with the baby split, the 3-10. You want to hit that 3-pin on the right and deflects into the 6-10, and the 3-pin goes across to get the 7. Gives it a shot. Almost didn't hit the 3-pin quite thin enough, and we've got just about an even match here. In fact, Husted has lost the lead. He's down 1.
And of course, the winner of this match will bowl for the title against Ron Palumbi Jr. out of Erie, Pennsylvania. Boy, did he bowl well this week.
Average 230.
Whew. That's a lot of wood.
Husted trying to get it back together. Solid 10. Right back in the pocket. He's having no trouble with lane 33. It's 34, and ironically enough, he picked a finish on 34 in that first match. He must have known what he was doing, because he had to strike, and he did, but he has not hit that lane so far this game.
Dave Husted with his best year back in 1982. He finished 2nd in the money standings to Earl Anthony and earned over $100,000 by making 10 pins just like that one.
Right, measuring it just long enough.
Sometimes that lane looks a little too long when you're shooting those spares, doesn't it?
Right. In '82, when Davey finished 2nd in the money standings, he was 1 place ahead of me. I was just behind him.
You were 3rd that year.
Yeah. Sajak high again, trips out the 4-pin. See the difference in speed between these 2 players? Sajak really going with a lot of speed, trying to hold the ball in the pocket from the 2nd arrow with speed and loft. Husted moving in closer to the 3rd arrow where there's more oil and throwing softer speed, looping the ball some.
If you would have told me after the opening 2 frames that Sajak would lead in the 5th, I'd have looked at you kind of funny.
Right. He's up by 1. Can increase it to 11 if he can get his first strike on lane 33. Been high. Now that the adjustment, the 2-4-5-8, the bucket. So tough spare here. Be interesting to see whether he shoots this from the left or shoots it off of his strike target.
The one thing I like about Ricky Sajak's game is the knee bend. He starts with it and tries to keep it throughout the entire game.
And he's shooting the spare from the left. Kind of comes up at the line and chops the spare, gives it right back to Houston, and this is a here you take it, no I don't want it match. And Amleto sitting in the paddock thinking, oh my goodness.
What do you think about, Mike, in that situation? Obviously, I don't want to allude to the fact, but you did lose a few matches in your career on television. What do you think about when you're in that situation?
As we see, Sajak's ball chopping the 2 right off the 5. You think just that boy, why couldn't they have done that against me? You know, you didn't do that against me.
Yeah, but the bowlers always say that. Why do they have to bowl so well against me?
Well, we all got a bit of paranoia out here. Makes the adjustment, knocks the 10-pin out of there.
Dave Husted is trying to snatch control of this match once again, but it has gone back and forth.
Well, he's up 11, can increase it to 21. Sajak has just handed it to him by that bucket and missing it. So we see the scoreboard there. Husted 88 in the 5th, the strike up in the 6th. Sajak open in the 6th. 97 going at a 177 pace, Ricky is. Husted going at a 188 right now. What I mean by that is they would spare strike the rest of the way out. Husted still potential 238 if he took it all the way out the sheet. Comes in light, and nobody wants to take control of this match. It's like the intensity level has just drained out of both of them.
Let's chat about that, Mike. Dave Husted makes a critical shot. He strikes in the 10th to beat Amleto. What does that take out of you sometimes? Doesn't it take away a little of your concentration to give it all early on in a match?
Gee, I wouldn't think so. I think it would be just the opposite, that it would be an impetus for him to move on to do better. Springboard effect.
Well, Dave Husted in a position where he's trying to make some when you get to the TV pair, especially when you lead by only 11 in the semifinal game.
And it's 7th frame action. Ricky Sajak has not bowled well in this match, but he is still in it.
A very gutsy performer. Won 2 PBA titles within a 5-week span back in 1984. So he knows how to win, and he struck in the 10th frame both occasions to win.
That's right. Once against Gary Skidmore and the other against Mark Roth. Well, he's got 34 figured out.
It seems as if Dave Husted is lined up on lane 33, and Rick Sajak likes lane 34. Now they've just got to figure out how to make the adjustments on the opposite lanes.
And we see the scoreboard. There's the difference. 11 pins. Sajak can cut it to 1. Interestingly enough, he picked a finish on lane 33. He's not hit the pocket yet on that lane.
No time like the present.
That's what he's thinking. Ball aloft. Blows the 5 out of there. It's a 1-pin match. You said he was a gutsy player. He's shown it.
Had a chance to take in some of the match play action on Tuesday evening. And believe me, when he needs to hit the pocket, he'll get it there some way or another.
Houston trying to maintain his 1-pin advantage. Trips the 4. What a difference in speed.
The one shot that you mentioned that went through the nose was a bit soft for Husted. He just slowed up on it, and the ball hooked early.
He's got it. It seems like he just has to keep making slight adjustments on lane 34.
In a position to double up here in the 9th. Mike Durbin's foundation frame, as he calls it, and he just loved to strike in the 9th. It sets up the 10th.
He has to have one here. Comes in light and carries the right hit. Points his finger at it, says, that's it for you. Ball coming in light. Watch the head pin. Head pin in the 5-pin. Head pin goes to the wall. Comes back off. The ball nicked the 5, and it fell to the right. Sajak down at 11 as he was in the 7th frame, or the 8th frame. He can cut it to 1. He can hit lane 34. Good loft. Is he going to get it? Yes! The straight shooters usually don't get those messenger strikes, but Ricky got one there. Asking for a re-rack in the 10th frame on lane 33. Doesn't like the rack.
Interesting to note, Mike Durbin, should Ricky Sajak take this one right off the sheet, he'll shoot 217, but Dave Husted with a turkey in the 10th would shoot 218.
Right now, Husted seems shaky to me on the right lane. To have to throw 3 strikes over there, I don't know whether he could. This is to take the lead for the first time in the match.
Can't look too far ahead. You've got to take it one shot at a time.
He's there. And knocks the 10th pin out of there. Puts him up by 9. As Houston's watched Amleto do the same thing to him in the previous match. A bowler strike out in the 10th frame to take the lead.
That has to be the toughest thing in the world. There's no defense in bowling. You have to sit there and watch that other guy perform.
And Sajak has asked for another re-rack on lane 33. He saved him for the 10th frame. Interestingly enough, you know, our rule has changed this year. It used to be that you got 3 and then the tournament director would take a look at it. Now you get 3 and that's it. So you have to use them strategically.
And specifically, the minute you walk up and look at the pins, you have to ask for the re-rack. If you do anything other than that beforehand and ask for it, you don't get it.
Right. If I reach for my ball or something like that, then I'm delaying and I don't get it.
Second shot in the 10th for Ricky Sajak. He's on a roll.
And a 2-4-5-8 again, the bucket again. So Houston's going to be in the same position he was in against Amleto, needing the first strike in the 10th frame to emerge a winner and go on and face Ron Palumbi. Sajak, who had such a horrible start, is going to wind up with a 2-0-3 game if he can make this spare.
Sajak piecing together a 4-bagger before the bucket. And this time he converts it. He missed it in the 6th. Took care of business and finishes with 2-0-3.
Well, Davey, we've seen can respond to the pressure. And notice his approach. He takes a little extra time here trying to get his composure together and his thoughts together exactly how he wants to throw this shot. But when he makes up his mind, he takes very little time.
He needed to strike on lane 34 to beat Amleto Monticelli, and he delivered in the opening game, winning 228-224. And boy, history does repeat itself. He's right back in the same position.
Well, see if he can do it. Good loft. Great shot. That was his best shot of the match. Absolutely his best shot of the match.
Down on one knee, just begging for the carry, and he got it.
And there was nothing soft about that speed. He got that ball well out on the lane and had more speed on that, and just a perfect execution under pressure.
Dave Husted still alive in a search for PBA title number 4. Just tremendous action here in the semifinal match.
And he still needs 6 pins and a spare. It's not in the bank yet. And it is now, though. That's enough.
A little wink from Michelle, his wife, as he walks back. Oh, nothing to it, Michelle. All I needed was a double.
Well, it was. That's all he needed, and he got it.
Boy, it sure is easy to sit back here and talk about how easy it is to throw those strikes.
Right,
well, I used to throw them all the time.
Yeah, sure. Finish with 218 with a strike, and he does it.
Just shreds the rack with a final shot in the 10th. So Houston again strikes out. This time 8 strikes in the semifinal game, and the final score 218-203. Coming up next, Dave Husted will match up with Roy Buckley used to say, for all the wheat.
And interestingly enough, previously Palumbi had chosen to finish on the left lane, and now he's chosen to finish on the right.
23 years old, 6'3", 190 pounds, and all bowler.
A little light, breaks down the 2-4-5. A good break to leave only the 5 pin. He can practice at this spare now. Even though he's had 6 practice shots, he can get a little bit more feel what the lane's going to do under the pressure on lane 33 at the 5 pin.
Only the 3rd career appearance on national television for Palumbi. Of course, finishing 3rd in the Long Island Open earlier this winter and winning the Tucson Open back in '84.
Has the 5 pin, no problem. And let's see if that strike in the 10th frame took something out of Dave Husted or acted as a springboard, and he can just keep right on striking and cruise through this championship match.
He has the momentum. Make no mistake about that. Palumbi realizes that he's got his hands full in this title match.
Right, blows him out of there.
Just confidence has got to be flowing at this point when you win a couple of clutch matches, and you do so with big strikes in the 10th. It just makes you feel like you can strike on every shot.
Oh, absolutely. When you can come through under that kind of pressure on national television to win those games like that, it just, confidence just flows through you.
Now in 18 appearances on national television, Dave Husted has evened up his overall record at 14 wins and 14 losses. I have a feeling he'd like to go 15 and 14 before we're all done tonight.
He just says, I want to get above 500, that's all. To take a quick early 10-pin lead. And the pin was coming across, but a little short message this time. Didn't quite get there.
The Pro Bowler's nemesis, the half 10. Explain the half 10, Mike.
Well, the half 10 usually is when the ball comes in behind the head pin, a little bit light in the 1-3 pocket, and the player has not quite got the lift with his fingers that he wants to get that 6-pin out of the channel to get that 10. Cross lane at the 10-pin has it. When you see a player come in that half pocket hit and that 6-pin snaps out of there, you know that he lifted it well. Now watch the 6-pin, second on the right here. It'll go into the channel and die there. Doesn't quite come out of it. And that tells you I need to get a little better lift the next time.
Get some fingers into the shot.
That's exactly right. Now you see the difference? Same hit. Palumbi, though, had the lift, and lane 34 finishes a little bit more than 33. Knocked that 10-pin out of it.
Ron Palumbi Jr. in match play this week. 19 wins, 3 losses, 2 ties. You just don't get much better than that against the competition on the tour.
No. One time in my career, I won 19 games out of 24. It was in the Firestone in 1970.
And you were top seed?
No, I finished second. That's when Don Johnson was the top seed.
Holy cow.
To take the lead. Oh, pretty shot. Perfect. That momentum has just changed, Denny.
Palumbi, an outstanding athlete, played basketball and baseball in high school.
Plus, he was on Linda's list.
That's right. One of the sexy 6. That's quite an honor.
Houston playing deeper, throwing slower. Perfect shot. But he's got a tiger on his hands here. 10-pin difference.
Down 10. And in the heat of battle, take a look at the concentration. Really, since he won last fall, had a very, very solid winter tour, and he's bowling probably right now as well as he has in ages.
And his composure is excellent. He's just pacing himself. He's not panicking when he falls behind. He's able to come through in the clutch. Right now, he needs a strike to even this match into a good rhythm. Perfect. There we got a match.
We got a match is right as Husted answers back with a double in the 3rd and the
Junior. And this match is even Steven. Palumbi working on a double, shooting in the 4th on the right lane, lane 34.
And Husted not even looking, has his head down, not even watching Palumbi bowl. Out the window, just too fast up the line, lost it off his hand. Palumbi doesn't slide. He plants at the end. Sometimes that can help you. In this case, it didn't. Watch his approach here. Watch his last step. There's no slide, just a step, and he lost that ball to the right, and it was gone immediately. Needs to regather his composure to make the 1-2-4. No gifts to here. And gets it across.
Nice conversion, and really all week long, Ron Palumbi Jr. bowling outstanding here at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl. I asked him the key to carrying those corner pins, and obviously that's why he led the tournament this week.
Well, the secret to that for me was really changing balls at the end of the regular 18-game qualifier. I had used the ball with axis weight to get me to the finals, but I really felt that to make a run at the show, I needed to change equipment once again. And I did that, and I was able to carry the 10th just a little bit better than everybody else.
Carried it pretty well there on that shot on the left-hand lane as he strikes and still trails by 3. Dave Husted asking for and receiving a re-rack.
That's his first in this championship game.
Obviously, Dave feels this is a key shot, trying to
Exactly right.
come up with a turkey here in the 5th.
You've spotted. He a little extra pressure in this one. He feels it inside. Let's see how he responds. Just like he's responded. Oh boy, he threw that well, left the 4-pin, a grimace on his face, and he says to himself as Michelle looks on, he said, "Good shot. I saw that." So he's not disappointed in his performance on that, just in the result.
The solid 4 a little high. I would imagine that he'll maybe be moving a fraction to the left with his feet on the next shot on that right lane.
Interesting you should bring that up. My adjustment always when I left those 4 pins was like that. I figured that when you were high like that, you know, the company that a 4-pin has is a 9-pin or a 10-pin or something like that. I didn't like that company, so I would always rather be light, even with my ball, and I would fudge a half a board to the left.
When you mentioned even with your ball, of course you used to be able to play the 3rd or 4th arrow and just strike at will.
Oh, of course, yeah. Love that angle.
Yes, the old Durban deflection angle, as they used to call it.
Still probably the only professional bowler in the history of the PBA to leave the 5-8-10 on national television. So.
Oh, jeez. Boy, I'm glad you said that. Husted stretched out with that shot, and the result is 10 in the pin.
And you see that half pocket hit that time where the 10-pin snapped out of there, and he got the full extension lift that time. Perfect shot. And watch the 6-pin this time. We saw it earlier. The 6-pin goes to the channel, second from the right, comes out of the channel live, and knocks out that 10. And the difference with that is simply the lift he got with his fingers. Columbia to take the lead in the match. He trails by 2. We're in the 6th frame. A little extra time. High, breaks it up, only the 6-10, and he's picked a finish on this lane. He picked originally, what the players do is in the practice session, the tournament director will ask them what lane do they want to finish on. And he picked at that time lane 33. Suddenly, after he threw those 6 practice shots before this match, he changed his mind, and suddenly he's lost lane 34. Cross lane at the 6-10. Hard, and has it.
Ron Columbia Jr. came a long way this week, Mike. He started out the tournament after 6 games in 89th place. And as he previously mentioned, switched balls after the qualifying, and obviously that was the key to his success this week.
Well, that's really a progression to come from 89th up to leading the tournament by a couple hundred pins. He ran away with it last night.
Just came out last night and destroyed everybody in match play.
Shot well over 300 over, which is, when I say over like that, we use 200 as a par, and if I shoot 210, I get plus 10. He averaged about 240 last night.
Tossed some big-time numbers, and that was a big-time shot as he genuflects a little bit on lane 33. The approach, just a little body English to help that 10 fall down.
But he's got to figure out lane 34. Husted, keeping the ball in the pocket, left a 4-pin on lane 34 in the 5th frame, left a 10-pin on lane 33 in the 2nd frame. So he's had every ball in the pocket, 4 strikes, looking for his 2nd double. Good loft. High, though. Breaks up the split. And again, both bowlers having trouble with lane 34. It looked like David fell off balance a little bit to the right, that his shoulder dipped down, and the ball was just left of its intended line right away.
The way he's lined up on that lane, it doesn't appear he has much room on the approach with the ball return. He can't get too much deeper, can he?
Well, he's a player that seems to drift a little bit left with his approach, and I always felt they had the advantage, seeing as I could never do it.
Well, what's the advantage of drifting to the left?
Well, when you play inside, that ball return doesn't get in your way that much. You're able to get around it. It doesn't bother you. But when you walk a little straighter, or you walk to the right a little bit, you run out of room. You can't climb on top of the ball return.
What about the olden days when those ball returns used to run all the way to the foul line?
Well, then you're really in trouble. You have to play a line, different line.
You used to wear a pad on your right foot, your right ankle.
8th frame. Husted up by 2. Both players hitting lane 33. David leaves a solid 10. It's going to be a 1-pin match if he makes this. It's going right down to the 9th and 10th frames.
You can hear the crowd reacting now to all these shots, the oohs and the ahs and the cheers. They've been very active all week long.
David switching balls again, taking something that goes a little bit straighter, very little time to shoot this 10-pin. Hits it on the right again, but makes it.
Is it better, Mike, not to hurry up on the spares, but just to get up there and do what's natural rather than thinking about missing it?
He did it perfect. He took the ball, and you could see the way he got up there. Missing it never entered his mind. He just got up there and went through his routine, and it was assumed in his mind he was going to make it.
Columbia working on a strike in the 7th, trails by just 1.
Light, in the 4th frame, high in the 6th frame. Let's see if make the adjustment in the 8th. Light again, the 1, 2, 4, 10, the washout. He is totally lost on lane 34. And if he doesn't make this washout, he's going to fall more than 10 pins behind and put David Houston in the real driver's seat. If he can convert this, he hasn't lost any pins in count. He would remain only 1 pin down. So it's not disaster yet if he can convert the spare here. I can't get it out.
You're nervous. I think everybody else in the building is too.
Get over? No. Open in the 8th frame, and he's more or less handed it to Houston.
Well, should Palombi strike in the 9th and then take this one right out through the 10th frame, would finish with 215. Dave Husted with a possible 228 should he throw a 4-bagger.
Palombi must strike here in the 9th frame. Going at a 195 pace down. He's down 13 pins. Still breathing, but barely. Back in the pocket. Oh, and a 4-9 breaks it out. Leaves only the 4-pin. But he's in big trouble right now. He is in big trouble. We see the ball finished tight in the pocket. Watch the 2-pin. 3rd from the left. It goes to the wall. And the pin comes off the wall to get that 9. 4-9, the pocket split where the ball just drives through too much.
It almost seemed that time as if he made too good a shot. Had the leverage and really lifted, ripped the finger holes, and, well, happy with a 4-pin, but obviously got a break, but he didn't lead the 4-9.
But he didn't strike. He didn't set himself up for the 10th. The best he can do is 205. Houston going at a 208 pace right now. David, the championship is in David's hands if he can take charge right here in the 9th and 10th frames. And he knows it. He's performed tremendous in the clutch the 2 previous games. To my way of thinking, there's no reason to think that he won't continue that.
Dave Husted's last victory, the Touring Players Championship in Saginaw, Michigan.
Oh, he just ripped the 5 out of there.
Just slashed it out of there.
From that deep inside angle, he just pulled the finger holes out of that ball and destroyed the 5.
It was almost as if he said, this one will go right from the get-go, and trust is a must on the PBA Tour. You got to send it a little right to get it back.
And he's saying something now. Is he asking for a re-rack?
Speaking with Harry Golden, PBA's national tournament director. Obviously, Harry with a response, and Dave Husted.
I don't know if he...
Maybe fresh out of re-racks.
He'd already gone to his rosin bag, and Harry wouldn't give it to him.
In other words, he asked for the re-rack too late.
That's exactly right.
He'll have to make do with the rack he's got on lane 33. This to wrap up the title.
And he's done it. And you don't see that kind of reaction too often out of Dave Houston. That for his 4th title, the 3rd time he's come from the number 3 position.
And really his 2nd title in how many tournaments?
Well, it was the last tournament of the year, the 2nd title, about the last 15 or so. 16, 17, somewhere in there.
Not too bad. A happy Dave Husted. Now he trips out to 4, and when you win out here, as he gets the congratulatory handshake from top seed Ron Palombi Jr., you have to carry the clutch hits, but the winner of this year's $125,000 Kessler Open certainly bowled well.
And he struck in every 10th frame when he needed it. Destroys the rack, finishes with 228 to win his 4th PBA title. Tremendous performance by Dave Houston in the clutch.
Absolutely outstanding play here this evening. We had some terrific matches. Amoletto Monticelli losing to Dave Husted 228, 224. Husted needed a strike there. Then it was on to the semifinal match against Rick Sajak. And once again, Husted had to step up in the 10th and strike on lane 34. He did so, won 218, 203. And this one was not out of the wood until, once again, the 10th frame.
And Palombi just, his inability to capture or conquer lane 34 cost him his chance at this title.
Well, you're looking at him. He is the Kessler Open champion for 1986. Final score in the title match. Dave Husted, 228. Ron Palombi Jr., 181. Victor in the $125,000 Kessler Open.
Was it as difficult as it looked to throw those clutch strikes in the first and second game that have to close them out in the title match?
Well, the first 2 games, you know, I told myself I wanted to get out to a quick start. I just couldn't do it. And Amaletto and then Ricky put the pressure on me, and somehow I came through. And then the last game, I just told myself, maybe I can get this thing out of the wood before the 10th frame, and it didn't come down to that. I'd like to congratulate Ron on a great week. He averaged 230, and he bowled just super. And I'd like to thank everybody here at Earl Anthony's Dublin Bowl, Ted Hoffman, and especially Kessler for making everything possible.
And speaking of Ted Hoffman, he's got something here for you, a trophy presentation. Ted, don't hurt yourself in giving this to Dave.
Dave, on behalf of Kessler and Earl Anthony and myself and all these bowling fans that are here from Dublin, congratulations. You're a great champion. Michelle, also congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, the trophy is certainly nice, Dave Husted, but now Bill Donnan, of course, the national product manager for Kessler Whiskey, has something else for you.
First of all, congratulations on your smooth winning performance tonight.
Thank you.
Now, I'm not too sure who I should give this to. On behalf of Kessler Whiskey and the Seagram Distillers Company, I'd like to present you with this check for $18,000 on your first place performance in the '86 Kessler Open. Congratulations. And the best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. I'm not much of a drinker, but when the time comes, I guess Kessler will definitely be on the top of the list.
Well, I know one thing. You drove a couple people to probably drink watching this one this evening with the pressure. Mike, any questions for our champion?
Well, I'd just like to congratulate you, Dave. You must like that number 3 spot. Is that right?
Well, you mentioned that earlier, Mike, and, you know, I just tried to go out and make some good shots. The lanes were in fantastic condition all week. Everybody bowled extremely well. I was just fortunate enough to carry a couple lucky hits and a couple more times than some other players, but I don't know what to say. It's awful fun to win. Don't get here that often, so you just try to make the best of each time you get on TV.
Well, I'd just like to congratulate you one more time. You got up in the 10th frame 3 times when the match was still in the balance. You struck all 3 times. That's coming through when you have to, and that's how you win on the PBA Tour. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Everything just worked out perfect. I don't know what to say.
The one thing I noticed, Dave, is that you had problems watching your opponent's bowl. Every time I looked down at you, you had your head in your hands. Were you praying over there?
Well, that doesn't hurt any. I'll tell you, the good man upstairs looked over me today, and I was just trying to get a little tunnel vision in there and just try to concentrate on making good shots, and thankfully I did.
He made a bunch of good shots. The winner of the $125,000 Kessler Open, Dave Husted.